So we just finished the 21 Day Life is Abundant Challenge, November edition, and ah, I'm full of gratitude because um, it means a lot to me to have a group go through this kind of life's work, so to speak. But just the kind of the conversation and the learning and the ahas and the challenges and just like all of it that goes into um, running a challenge like this. So it is uh, rewarding in a way that I just don't have the words right now. But I wanted to share some of the conversation that we had tonight because it was really, really good. And um, it just highlights the fact that we're always just on this continuous journey. We're always on this continuous journey with learning who we are and what we like and what we don't like and how to navigate the world and what does that even mean, and you know learning how to find ourself. Ultimately, I think that is what it boils down to, is like finding ourselves, finding who we really are. So that's what we focused on, because day 21 is about the journey. It's about appreciating the good, the bad, the twists, the turns, the peaks, the valleys. It's about appreciating all of it, no matter what. And knowing that we got to today because of those things, and it wasn't all bad. And there, were some lessons learned, there's some skills and some strengths gained. So that is what we celebrate. And that's how this started for me. It was literally a celebration of life because I was struggling to find things to be grateful for and like feel the gratitude. So it is celebrating the good, the bad, the ugly, the twists, the turns, because it gets us to today. It gets us to here. So one of the questions that I asked was about the process of leading from the head versus leading from the heart, and whether people notice a difference in when they do that. So how do they feel, and what are the differences in the outcomes they experience when they lead from the head versus leading from the heart? And there were some really interesting answers. One of the answers was people find themselves being more patient with others. They find themselves being more patient, and they allow compassion. So they come from a more compassionate place when they're leading from the heart versus leading from the head. When they're in their heads, it's fast paced, it's ego, it's you know feeling really judgmental even. But from that heart space, it is understanding, it's compassion, it's grace to self, grace to others. And there's a sense of flow that seems to happen, where there's more ease with the way the path reveals itself, the way things unfold. So that was a really, really cool observation. And then we took it a step further, and then there was the comment of, well, it feels different in the body when you're operating from your head versus when you're operating from your heart. And I've personally noticed that, and kind of all of our participants kind of were like, yeah, that does make some sense. So feeling more, when you're operating from your headspace, feeling disconnected from your body, like maybe not even getting a feeling at all, feeling rushed, feeling, like there's a lot of effort that is required when in the headspace, applying logic to everything, versus when you're in your heart, there's the ease, but your whole body gets on board. So if you've heard the expression full body yes, your whole body gets on board when it's a decision from the heart, when it's an action from the heart. Your whole body feels it. So that kind of mind body connection. You don't have the disconnection. You don't have the effort that is required when you're forcing from the headspace, when you're forcing from logic. And also the presence of logic. So A plus B plus C equals D, or, if I do X, Y, and Z, then, whatever the outcome is, like knowing certain things are going to create a certain outcome, that is operating from the headspace. But when you're operating from the heart, oftentimes there is no logic. It might feel really good, and you just have to trust that it will work out. So trusting is the heart space. Knowing is the heart space. Orchestrating and forcing and trying to plan and, get all the little nitty-gritty details in place and orchestrate, that is the head space. So it was a really good conversation about the differences between the two, and who feels it in their body versus who feels it in other places. And that was really helpful, just to have the group discuss that. We also talked about anxiety. So anxiety coming from the headspace. And when you're in the headspace, you're coming up with all the reasons and all the permutations how, and like all the options. And you kind of wind yourself up not being able to make a decision because there's so many options to choose from. Whereas with the heart, it just makes sense. Like the option just presents and it makes sense. And you get to make a decision and trust that even if it isn't the right decision, you'll still get to where you're aiming to get to. So again, there's a sense of flow, there's a sense of ease that comes along with the heart space. And the point was brought up, well, where does the desire to control even come from? Like if we're operating from our headspace, where does that come from? And that's kind of, a whole other conversation about whether we feel safe and why we have a desire to control, why we're unable to surrender, why we're feeling like we need to live up here versus down in the heart space. So really, really good conversation. And then the second part was blocks. So I asked the group if they felt any blocks to the statement of, I am where I am, I'm proud of my journey, I embrace it all, good, bad, indifferent, all the twists, the turns, the peaks, the valleys. I embrace it all because I'm here now and I am okay with who I am. So a statement like that, and then they were telling me whether they're okay with that statement or if they have some blocks, some like hesitation towards accepting that statement. And there was some hesitation, which was good because it led to a good conversation. So the hesitation was around programming, so old programming. So being able to navigate whether I'm in my new way of being or if I'm kind of operating from that old place, the old beliefs, the old patterns. And maybe even experiencing some guilt for noticing that there's a change in yourself and that there may be some things that people around you don't understand, they might not support, and just understanding how to navigate that. So a block definitely could be old programming and just not knowing how to free yourself from it. So we talked about that and the guilt that comes along with it. and whether we create the guilt ourselves or whether the guilt is kind of pushed onto us by others who are used to us operating a certain way. So if we do something different, then we're wrong, or there's something to be guilty about, or there's, a way to feel because of other people's expectations of us. We also talked about shame. So shame has been used to control, and that elicits fear. So if we're afraid, then we're controllable. If we are at risk of experiencing shame, then we are also controllable. So the conversation was around doing things because we feel we need to, taking a course, getting a certification, getting doing the work, constantly healing and finding something, to fix. And whether it is okay to simply be, whether it is okay to be easy in your journey, whether it is okay to not have a coach or not be taking a class right now, or, not be pursuing another whatever. What if it is okay to simply be and integrate the information and embody the information and just get really good at that? What if that was okay? So we talked about, specifically from like a spiritual perspective, of people who are, on a quest for healing, and whether we constantly have to find stuff to fix about ourselves. So consensus was no. Consensus was, it's okay to take a break. It's okay to integrate the information that you learn, see how you can practically apply it to your life, see how you can use that with other tools that you have, or simply just take a break. You don't have to constantly be trying to fix something about yourself or about your journey. And that if others are telling you that you need to, then not accepting that. So it goes back again to feeling into your heart and feeling what feels good for you. And the idea that the journey doesn't have to be hard, the healing doesn't have to be hard, that you don't have to grind again, that it can be easy. So you get to choose the easy path. You get to choose to surrender. You get to choose to do what feels good and grow at your own pace, heal at your own pace, explore at your own pace. And there's no wrong in that, because every step you take is a step towards growth. It's a step towards expansion. It's a step towards freedom. And again, the group's consensus was that we are not aiming for shame, we're aiming for freedom. So our quest for information, our quest for understanding, our quest for self underneath all the layers of identity, that is in and of itself freedom. Like the end goal is freedom. And however that happens, however the twists and turns on your journey appear, that is okay, because you're on the journey and you're learning, you're growing, you're shedding, you're expanding, you're sharing. So many things are happening. So that is what we discussed in day 21 of the Life is Abundant Challenge. And again, it was so good, so rewarding. 21 days. It can be a lot. It can be a lot of digging. It can be heavy topics. But if you're willing to say yes to yourself each day, just one day at a time, it goes by really fast. So I just wanted to share the recap because it was so good. And yeah, I hope you're on your own gratitude and healing journey as well.